Good morning, everybody. Now that we've opened up the webinar, folks are starting to drop in. We'll give it a minute for everyone to get in and then get started. Welcome, Vanessa.
Hi, sorry. Last minute notes. It's always good to be late to the party.
What happens if you throw a webinar party and you're late to your own webinar party? Nothing. We just get started a minute late and it's totally fine. Good morning, everyone. See, our attendees are dropping in. A quick reminder that at the end of today's webinar, we're going to draw a name out of a bowl. I have an actual bowl with actual little slips of paper with all your names on it. And one of you will win a free couple of hours with Vanessa to help answer your research questions. So stay tuned to the end of today's session for that. We hope you've enjoyed this webinar. This is the first research educational teaching webinar that we've done. So we please welcome your feedback to help us improve for the next one. We are looking at, this time our focus has really been on homesteading and in the countryside. And we are looking at coming up in the next couple of months, doing one that focuses on in town. Keep us in your newsfeed, like us on Facebook or on Instagram. Better yet, join. You can join and become a member on our website, deschuteshistory.org. And if you join, you have access free to our maps and our newspapers.com access and our research files and all the things that we've been showing you how to work with. We have access to that free for you if you join as a member. So please consider joining us year-round for fun research like this. Today we're going to briefly look at Deschutes Dial, but then we're going to delve into the records that the county clerk's office holds and how that can help lead you on these searches. So with that, I'll be manning the Q&A and the chat if you have questions, and I'll turn it over to Vanessa.
All right, thanks, Kelly. So we have a lot we're going to try and get through today, and we will begin. So where do you go next? Last week, we looked at the General Land Office records and how you can research from properties that were purchased from the federal government, from that's now the Bureau of Land Management, and how do you pull records off of those websites? Well, what if you didn't find anything there, or you did and you want to see if there was property elsewhere? Maybe they purchased it from a family, a neighbor, someone else, maybe even from the state. How do you research that? So each city or each county has their own assessor's office, and ours here in Deschutes County is Dial. Each county pretty much has their own county clerk's office, and we do as well. So we're going to start with those two. I'm going to just hit Deschutes dial briefly because I want to show you where you get your tax ID lot number, because that has the address we've been using this whole time. So you would go to Deschutes County dial, DIAL. In this case, I'm using the museum's address, and you type that in. If you didn't know the current owner or the address, you can use the interactive map. And I have used this on a number of occasions. And basically it brings up a map that you can click on the area that you're interested in, and it will give you the tax lot ID number and ask if you want to be sent to the summary of account for that property. So this has a lot of information on it, and I honestly only really use dial when I'm doing research for inside city limits or inside a town, because I have other resources that I can use to get the tax lot number. But this is what you're looking at here, this map tax lot number. The first 6 digits are going to be township, range, and section. And then the alphabet soup after it has to do with the quarters of the quarters of the quarters. So the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter and so forth. And you may have a lot of alphabet here, or you may have just a few. So that's a good place to get started if you don't have access to the township range and section in other ways. But the county clerk's office is what I am on a lot. And their records research page is where you want to be. For the next, for the example we're going to use for Deschutes County, I'm actually using O.B. Riley property. So O.B. Riley was here in the early 1900s. He actually shows up on Ben's 1900 census, and we have a road named after him. And there's also our the Riley Ranch Nature Conservatory here in town as well. So in this case, I know his township range and section. So I'm going to go to meets bounds, grantee, grantor, indexes prior to 1960. So grantor is the person who's selling the property. Grantee is the person that is buying the property. So you just click on that, and that takes you to the map of the county. And in this case, his property is Township 17 South, Range 12 East, sections 17 and 18. And so you can see here that Bend actually takes up 4. These are the 6 mile by 6 mile squares. And you can see that Bend takes up 4 of those. In this case, we're looking at this square here. So you'd click on that, and that's going to take you, I'm going to move this out of the way down in the corner here, to a tract index. And what this is it lists everybody who had purchased properties in Township 17, Range 12, Section 18. This is one page. It may go on for more than one page. If it's a popular property, it might have many pages. In this case, this is just one page. And you can see here the United States sells property to O.W.B. Riley. And in this case up here, you have sections, quarters. So northeast, northwest, southwest, southeast. So this is your quarter, your section. Here's the northeast, northwest, southwest, southeast. And then each of these are divided into quarters. So A, B, C, D. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's just so that it's easier to to look at. I mean, trying to put NW, 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 I think it's cleaner just to put the 1 through 4. So then on here, what I've done is I've highlighted all the different properties that the Rileys had. So I'm mainly looking at O.B. Riley and his mother Elsie. And you can see here that O.B. Riley purchased this property, and then he turned it over to his mother, and then his mother bought property from him. It turned over, and then here she's buying some property, and it just and then it gets turned over in probate to her estate. So property switch back and forth, and a lot of times it's for tax purposes. You'll see like the husbands purchasing property and then putting it in their wives' names. You'll see properties switching, back and forth, and you just have to follow here. So in this case, I want to look at O.B. Riley actually purchased some property from Tedford. It was the northwest and the southwest quarters of the northwest quarter of Township 17 South, Range 12 East, Section 18. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So once I have this this is how I do it. I color it in. The other thing I want to mention is that there are options where you can print this off the county website, and I recommend not doing that. I actually recommend downloading it to your own system and printing it from your own system. And the reason for that is that not all counties are the same, and some may actually request that you download it to your own system. I have found if I've tried to download these pages off of our county system, it slows the whole process down. It's much faster and cleaner to just operate off your own system, off your own computer. Good habit to get into. So then once I figure out who's what, I then take one of the maps that I printed off, the survey map off of the General Land Office, and I color in what the different properties are. Let me move this again. And you can see here that the orange is from the General Land Office. It's under the Sales Cash Entry Act of 1812. Then the yellow is also from the General Land Office, and that's under the Homestead Act of 1862. And then the blue are the properties that Riley received through other means. So buying it from either the state or from other people in the area. And so that way I have a really quick visual, and it makes it easy to know what's what. So if I want deeds off of any of this, just like I pulled deeds off of the properties on the Bureau of Land Management site, the General Land Office, you can see here, for instance, the property that he purchased from Tedford was filed on June 3rd, 1904. It was a deed. It's in volume 2, page 47. Oh, and that's just me showing that's everything that's in on this particular section on this page that we're looking at. So to figure out the deeds, I'm going to go back to records research, and I'm going to click on the deeds record 1871 to 1984. That's going to bring me to the volumes, and in this case it was volume 2. So I'm going to click on volumes 1 through 25. That then brings me to individual volumes, and I find volume 2, and I click on that, and that will bring me to the all of the deeds that show up in volume 2, and it starts with page 1 and goes to however many pages are in that volume. Since I know it's page 47, I can type in page 47 and it brings me to the deed, and you can see here John F. Tedford and wife to Ovid W.B. Riley, and then it proceeds to explain the description of the property and any information regarding the property and the transaction. Now you might notice here it says volume 11, page 82. That's because in 1904, this property would have been part of Crook County. Deschutes County was not created until 1916. So when records were transferred over, then the county had their own system. And so under Deschutes County, it's volume 2, page 47, hence the written in page number here. So basically this shows you that you can go from the tract index page that you get from the county clerk's office and transfer it into a deed, much like you got off of the general land office records, or if not, here you get a deed of the property. So you go from the information per line, and this again is what you're looking at, and it transfers into this. So now that you have gone through and you've found deeds and you've figured out the address of the property, township, range, and section, you might want to see exactly where that property is located. What does it look like today? And so this is where Google Earth and EarthPoint and satellites all play a role and make this exciting. So I've used EarthPoint in a number of different ways. For me, it has been accurate. It has located the property I've been looking for, and I've also done it by using longitude and latitude in other ways and have not had a problem. What you would do is you'd go to EarthPoint. Again, you need to make sure you've downloaded the Google Earth software, and you will click search by description. You'll then type in drop boxes. So for Oregon, in this case, Oregon, the Willamette Meridian, Township 17, Range 12, and if you want to put a section, you can. You then click fly to on Google Earth, and that then opens in Google Earth and highlights where the property is. So the orange line is those 6 mile or 6 1 mile by 6 mile township range squares. Then you have section squares in the pink, and you have quarters in the green. And what you're seeing here in the red is the outline of the Riley properties. And this blue is to give you an idea of where the Riley Ranch Nature Conservatory is located today. Other maps that you can use that are located here at the museum, but certainly you might be able to locate online with the Metzger maps are these. The museum has Metzger maps for 1944 and 1972, I believe. Yeah, 1972. And what those do is each page is a township and a range, and then it gives you all of the sections in that space, and it shows you how the property is divided up into parcels for that particular year, who was ownership of that. So I was able to photocopy the pages I wanted. I then highlighted the sections and filled in the parcels of property that I was looking at. This helps with figuring out ownership of the property. This particular map is not online. This is only available here at the museum. It's Robert Gould 1915 map. Robert Gould was the county surveyor and engineer, and this map is just a small portion of a larger map of Central Oregon. It shows landmarks, for instance, mountain ranges and ridges, rivers. It has some homesteads on it. It has ranger stations, canals, proposed boundaries, points of interest. So it has a lot of information on it. It also has township range and sections. So again, you can locate the property of interest and see what might have been on that in this case in 1915. So again, I found where Riley's properties were. And much like I did up here with the Metzger maps. So other resources that are helpful to help fill in the whole story of the homestead or property you're looking at might be photographs. And in this case, we have O.B. Riley here with his nephew, Ralph Cake, who at one point owned the property. There are journals and letters. All of that is going to help fill in, kind of beef out that story. So it's not just the bare bones of an address. Another place you can search are newspaper articles. So in this case, for O.B. Riley, I was using the oregonnews.universityoforegon.edu, or the Oregon Historical Newspaper site. They have newspapers from all over Oregon. It's certainly not every newspaper, but there are a majority of newspapers, and each newspaper is going to have its own range of years. So some are hit and miss. But for the Bend Bulletin, it goes from 1903 to 1922. They are only putting one on a week, as far as like treating it as a weekly, which the newspaper was from 1903 to 1916. So after 1916, it's going to be dailies. Here on this site, the bulletin is from 1903 to 1921, 1922. So I went on the site and I was able to find the notice for publication. I found an article regarding the someone doing carpentry work on the property. I found Riley a notice of him reporting how well his crop is doing. And I also discovered in this article that he was the road surveyor. So it says road supervisor Ovid Riley was in town yesterday. He reported grain up to his knees as he rode through his field on horseback on his way to town. All farm crops are growing prodigiously and give every promise of a big yield. There's a report about him going to Tethro to round up some horses. A party that his sister, Ms. Mary Riley, received a piano at the Pilot View Inn, which his mother, Elsie, was a manager of in the early years. And then also a notice of him renting property from Kotzman to increase his yield of crops. So you can find all different kinds of notices that then, like I said, help fill in that story that you may be trying to put together on property. So this is all for Deschutes County and local, and you can see how there's a lot of resources that you have access to just from home. But what if you're looking outside of the area? How do you go ahead and do this? Well, again, I'm using my family as an example. In this case, we'll start with newspapers, and I went to newspapers.com. This is a wonderful resource. You do need a subscription, need to purchase to use, but they do have a 7-day trial if you want to try it out. It has not just state newspapers, but also international newspapers. So if you're doing research that way, it's a gem. And I found some here. I found Harrison Mears's obituary, although because he went by Chet, it's C.H. Mears. But if you read through it, I was able to confirm that it is Harrison and not Charles Mears. Here's a notice of marriage. This is a statement again of what's growing on the property. I have confirmation. We talked about verification being important. Well, this verifies that O. Mears is actually Oliver and is a brother to Harrison. So that was a nice find. Another wedding announcement. There's all kinds of information that you can find in these newspapers. So in this case, I had no idea. I had township range and section from what I got from the general land office, but I didn't really know where the property was today. And in going to the assessor's office, I needed to have an idea of where. So I went to Earth Point first. And just like with O.B. Riley, I did by description. I plugged in state, the principal meridian, and township range and section. It then flew me out here. You can see here Stillwater, Oklahoma, Perkins, Coyle. And here is my 6x6 township range square with the section. And you can actually see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see these sections, which is pretty cool. I then did a close-up, and here's the northwest half of the property that he owned. So now I have an idea of what it physically looks like today, which helped me when I went to the assessor's office in Payne County, Oklahoma. And again, because I didn't know how their tax lot numbers worked, I did try typing in township range and section like Deschutes County, but that was not working. So I did the map view. I went to map and tried to locate it that way and compared what I saw through Earth Point with what I saw at the assessor's office, and I located the property. I then clicked on the property and it pulled up the pages that I was interested in. And in this case, it actually had a photo of what the property looked like. And it gave me an overview, much of what you get in Deschutes County Dial. And here it shows me who currently owns the property, the physical address of the property, descriptions, if there were buildings on the property, what is the property being used for. I then went to the Payne County Clerk's office and was able to locate some deeds. Now, their setup is much different than Deschutes County. It was more, one, I had to register, which was free, in order to get onto the site. So it wasn't like here in Deschutes County, anybody can go to Dial and plug in information to look. I had to actually register, get a username and password to then have access. But I was able to do that. Like I said, it was free. And I found the 1900 patent record for his homestead property. I found another deed record of additional property I didn't know he had. And then I found another deed record of him selling property to a Jacobs, who I later discovered was his son-in-law. So these are all wonderful pieces that I didn't have before, and I'm excited to kind of look at them and explore that. The next thing I did was I went looking for maps, much like Metzger maps that I used for the O.B. Riley. In this case, the county names different sections, and I didn't know that. And so it was through a series of trial and error that I discovered that his property was located in Paradise Township, is what they called it. Here is 25, or section 25. And from that, once I figured out Paradise, then I was able to find something that looked like a Metzger map. This is from 1907. And here's the section that I'm looking for. It's great because it shows me the names of his neighbors. Here he is right here. H.C. Mears, Mrs. Mears, and here's P. Mears, which is Preston, his son. And it appears that Preston is actually leasing a quarter right here. It also shows me where homesteads are, where actual buildings are located, which helps me figure out where might the original homestead home be. So that was pretty exciting too. That was a bonus perk. So here's H.C. Mears, Mrs. Mears' property. And that was from the Historic Map Works, which is a resource that is on your list. Now, I also just did some general searches. I Googled Oklahoma maps from different eras and clicked on images to see what would come up. And a lot of times they'll lead me to other websites or other resources. In this case, I found an 1890 map of Oklahoma. You'll see that the Panhandle part was all considered public land, and this was Indian territory. I also found an Oklahoma land opening map that gave me a timeline on when land was being opened. And you can see here, lands opened by Run. That was the great, run to the border, which my great-great-grandfather participated in. I found a road map of Payne County, Oklahoma from 1963. And then again, like in the case of O.B. Riley, pictures are a great resource to help fill that, make it more personable who people are. Here, of course, is H.C. Mears, his wife, Mary, and their children, Maud, and this is my great-grandfather, Benjamin Mears. And then I was lucky enough to have Ben's memoirs, and in that he actually has a description of the property. They finally found their location on Wild Horse Creek, 11 miles southwest of Stillwater in Payne County. So again, verification that I am looking at the right properties. So that is a lot of information I realize in a short time. What I'd like to do now is take some time and look at some actual live, let's do this, some live searches. Let's start with the county clerk's office. So in this case, I just put in Deschutes County Clerk. It pops up with their site. And what I do, I don't just go to their homepage. I just go ahead and click on Records Research because I know that's where I want to be. Now let's open this up. Okay, and I'm going to use Lewis Ellingson. That was one we did a search in the General Land Office records and didn't find anything, but then found that he was in the clerk's office records. So let's go back there and I'll show you how we do his deed search. Here's that map. And his property is 17 South, 13 East. So here's the square we want. Now I click on the Mets and Bounds book. And you'll see how, see how it opens. And his was section 31. And again, the codes indicate that it's part of the CARI Act and the Central Oregon Irrigation District. We want section 31, and you see it starts with section 1. The easiest thing to do is use the thumbnails that are here on the left. If I remember correctly, it was page 40. So you can either scroll all the way down, kind of testing as you go. There's page 40. Okay, and then so then I'm just looking. I was looking for Ellingson. I think we discovered that we knew that it was in the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter. And you can see here it is right here. Here's Ellingson. So January 6, 1945 is when the deed was filed. And then you want to write this down. So the D indicates that it's a D. If it has a P, it would be a patent. You pretty much use the same format to find the patent. It's in volume 66, page 148. So we now need to go back to records research page. We're going to go down to the deed records. And I just want to show you quickly, if it was a P for patent, you can see here where the patent records are. And there's only 2 books in Deschutes County. But ours was a deed. So we're going to go back up here. It was deed 66. So it would be in this set of volumes here. We then go down to volume 66. You see that it starts with page 1. So it's just super easy to come up here and type in 148 and hit enter. And it takes us right to the site that we're looking for. And here he is, Lewis Ellingson purchased property from State Reclamation Commission. Now, sometimes these are multiple pages, so you can scroll down and see how many pages there are. In this case, there is only 1. You come up here to the little printer. Now, remember I said you don't want to print from the site. Click this. It takes you to where you can type in the page number. You don't want to click download and print until you've typed in the page number you want, because you will download the whole of volume. And in this case, it would be the whole volume of 66. So you're going to come here and actually type in, I want page 148, and then hit download. And it's downloaded it now to my computer. And from here, I can save it to wherever what file I want, and I can print it out. And so you get a printout of that. All right. So that's how you get a deed off of the county clerk's office. The other thing I want to do is let's go back and try doing a earthquake Point. So what we're going to do is let's just type in Earth Point. Whoops. Now remember, to use this, you have to already have downloaded the Google Earth software, and I like Google Earth Pro. It's a free program. Here's Earth Point. So if I click on that, it takes you to their home page. In this, I want to search by description, and it brings us to the township and range search by description. I'm going to use Gordon Hall, and he was in Harney County, if I remember correctly. So we'll go down to Oregon. Automatically does our meridian because we only have one. So he was Township 24. Range 24. Section 1. I then click View to on Google Earth. In some situations, it'll take you right there. Others, I have an older system, so I have to actually open my Google Earth. Open it in Google Earth, and it's a little slower, but here we go. And it takes me right there. So here's, as you can see, I had already experimented. So it every time I plugged information into Earth Point, it would attach it. So here's Township 24, Range 24 East. Here's Section 1. Then I can go back to Google Earth. I can then type in, he had 3 properties, so we'll go to 24 South, 25 East, and Section 6. Hit fly to Google Earth. And then flies me to the next. And here's that. And it'll keep this, as you can see, so that you can keep entering as many properties as you want to see where it all is. The cool thing with Google Earth is that it also, the Google Earth Pro, has a timeline. So this is wonderful if you have buildings on your property. You can come over here to the historic timeline. And in this case, it goes to 1984 to 2019. And you can go all the way back. Come on, catch up. Might be a little slow. I promise you that's not usually what it looks like. Need to refresh. Well, here, just go through. And you can see the dates up here. And you can also kind of see how as Google has improved, so does the imagery. This is great for, like I said, if there's buildings on the property, you can see how buildings have changed or come down or be added to. If other things have cropped up on the property. All right. So that's how you use Earth Point. So Kelly, do we have any questions? We still have time. Let me go through, hold on, before you pop in. Let me just introduce you. Here's his historic Oregon newspapers. you can see that there are a number of newspapers available for access all over. One of the cool things, so we have the Bend Bulletin, mainly is what you might be using, but there's also the Deschutes Echo that was published in 1902. You can also look at other papers for articles for the area. For instance, if you go to Prineville, Prineville has 3 papers, and especially if the property is prior to like 1916 when Deschutes County was created, you might find some information here. You just basically, here's Crook County Journal. You can go browse by date issue, if you know what you're looking for. The highlighted bold are what they have, and you can see it's a weekly in some cases. You just click on it. And then they have a magnifying glass that you can zoom in to read the articles. They also have an advanced search. So you can put in, I don't so much use this. I usually put in like, well, let's see, if I put in O.B. Riley, just put Riley in, you figure out, you know, dates to start and dates to end. So in this case, I usually do, I don't do it like by decades. I'll usually do like by 3 or 5 years. Well, he's not going to, I mean, this, put January. He wasn't out here until 1900, so we may not, probably won't get anything. But then you come down and you can pick as many newspapers as you want. Here's the Bend Bulletin. And I can go down to the Crook County Journal, and then I can hit search, and it's going to go through and see if anything, and in this case, no match is found. But if there was, then newspapers are going to pop up, and the word Riley, because that's what I was searching for, would be highlighted. If I go to here's newspapers.com. You can see trial, you know, free day trial if you want to do it. I usually go to browse. And you can see these are the countries that they currently have. You can choose from states. So if you're doing like Oklahoma, this is how I found the Oklahoma articles, or North Dakota, or California, New Mexico. Here's the different cities that might have papers. And then Cimarron, in this case, 3. So, and then you can click on that, and it only has 1 year for that. And then you could just do a search, keyword search up here to see if anything shows up. So the newspapers are great. They're fun to play around in, and try different things. If you don't find it under Riley by one spelling, try it under another. In my case, I tried under Chet and under Harrison, under H.C. Mears, under just Mears. So you can try all different things, and you'll get different responses. All right,
try different
now
papers too.
Sorry?
Well, I was going to say, since I'm here, no, I jumped in and checking. We found, how many times have we found that do check other papers, because different journalists and editors found different pieces of information important or not important. We've had cases where we've been researching something and the bulletin will say like one sentence and it's not that, in depth. But then you go to a different newspaper, the Central Oregon Press, and it's got a whole article about, a thing that happened at city council meeting, so searching other papers for the same information is worth doing, because who knows, a journalist might have taken an interest in it and written a lot more than a journalist in a different paper. And city directories, that's the other thing that we've had recently really help us identify. Early city directories have helped us find township, section, and range information, as well as types of crops that people were growing. So that can be another item, another tool in your toolkit to figure out what was done on the property you're looking at. We do not have any questions, but know that we are here. We thank you guys for signing up for our webinar. Feel free to email us with questions if you need something clarified. And this is being recorded, and so all 3 sessions will be up on our Vimeo channel that you guys will have the link and access to. If you need to go back and say, wait, what did Vanessa say? How did she do that? Where was she at? You can always go back in the video as well as email us for clarification. So are we ready for me to draw a name from the bowl?
Yes, drum roll.
Of course we are. Sean Chesley.
All right.
So congratulations, Sean. You get to pick Vanessa's brain for a couple of hours. And there's a lot going on in that brain. And an excellent detective of all things historical. So
I want to quickly mention. Well, I want to quickly mention that we have a very we have a good resources here at the museum, and by becoming a member, you have free access to those resources. So if you are on the fence of, do I want to become a member or not become a member, the fact that you are here doing a research webinar might put you over that edge to become a member, just to have the access to our library and our database and material that is not necessarily available out there on the internet, like the Robert Gould map and other resources. So
yeah, we'd love to have you join us. So
very much.
Check us out at DeschutesHistory.org. Like us on Facebook and Instagram. We also play around on Twitter once in a while. We're not TikToking yet. We've just made it to Zoom. So be patient with us historians. We like paper and pencils. Have a great weekend, everyone. You'll get an email from us soon with the link to this recording, and have fun with your searches.
Yes. Happy history searches. Bye-bye. Were there no questions or responses you were going to capture? Okay.